Welcome to my house.
Hello and welcome back to the House of BTS, the house that goes beyond the supernatural. I am your host, Stephen Dawes, and enter freely and of your own will. In this video, I'll be going over the new Share Pain and Suffering Psychic Healing ability found on pages 117 and 118 of the Rift's Coalition Manhunters sourcebook. But first, I should mention that one of the aspects I plan to cover in future articles and sourcebooks and videos is player characters dealing with pain and suffering in your adventures, and how I see this new Share Pain and Suffering ability as a step in the right direction. As a horror RPG game master for more than 30 years now, I still find that getting your players to recognize and deal with their character's pain and suffering can really make the horror of a given situation stand out that much more. Characters suffering debilitating aches and pains, especially at a really bad time, such as suffering from a broken ankle or leg, which slows them down at a time when your party suddenly needs to run for their lives, or suffering from a broken arm while having to defend themselves from an enemy, or suffering from blood loss penalties, that literally bleeding out your hit points while trying to patch themselves up while they're on the go. Or even simply trying to avoid falling into a coma or dying during a particularly dangerous scene can all make for memorable moments during an adventure. Characters working together to overcome their obstacles and debilitations to achieve their goals are even better, and this new healing ability really taps into that vibe. So, how does this ability work? Well, with Share Pain and Suffering, the Psychic is able to take away half the pain and suffering and damage and penalties one person is experiencing by absorbing half of it into his or her own body. This reduces damage, side effects, and their penalties and the duration by half. However, the original victim and the Psychic both experience the damage, pain, and the penalties. This is often done to reduce the damage, side effects, penalties, and durations of an illness, poison, or debilitating and hurtful magic spell or psionic attack to minimize the damage, suffering, and penalties of a key person or loved one. If the victim or patient should lapse into a coma and seems to die, he or she is plus 10% to save versus coma and death even without measures taken to save their life. And gets an extra 20% if receiving medical treatment or healing. However, the Psychic sharing the pain and suffering is negative 20% to save versus coma and death should the character's hit points drop to 0 and causes him to lapse into a coma. Only one person can be helped in this way at a time. Another sharing cannot be attempted until the duration of side effects and penalties being currently shared comes to an end. So, my thoughts? Well, the very idea that this ability cuts almost every kind of damage or pain and side effect a character can suffer makes this a worthy ability for any psychic healer to have. It even reinforces my belief that it's best to always have a psychic healer in a group of investigators as the characters confront about every kind of danger there is and beyond the supernatural. One bad roll or one poorly handled event can suddenly see one or more of the characters suffering and in need of help. On the other hand, sometimes the group will come across an NPC or a random citizen who's injured and suffering various penalties and side effects and needs help. Sometimes that might be in the process of investigating. They'll see somebody who, just kind of put through the ringer by a supernatural creature and left for dead is still there. This particular ability would go a long way in helping any of these type of situations out. Comparing this ability to the Dead in Pain ability on page 99 of the Beyond the Supernatural book, the beauty but limitation of the Dead in Pain ability is that it only acts as a painkiller. It does nothing for the damage and the side effects a PC or NPC might also be experiencing. Dead in Pain also requires going into a trance for about 2 minutes, and as we all know, in any given RPG setting, a lot can happen in 2 minutes. and it isn't a great on-the-go kind of option. Sheer pain and suffering, on the other hand, only needs one round, or about 15 seconds, to take effect. Even suffering half the penalties is better than suffering the full effect, and is usually enough to help someone get through whatever ordeal it is they're facing. It's also worth noting that there is no duration to this ability, which means that this ability continues to function until the effects are gone or healed, or the psychic healer decides to cancel the ability. Another aspect that I don't think comes up enough in a horror RPG game, whether it's BTS or otherwise, is just the characters managing to stay alert and not fall into a coma and stay alive when they're critically injured. And this particular ability provides good bonuses to saving versus coma and death, which to me, not only it adds to the value of this ability and is worth keeping on hand. Keeping characters alive and on their feet is, it's really, that's everything, and which is another angle of where this particular ability, is just worth its weight in gold. Quick side note for you: for those of you who haven't gotten a copy of the Manhunters sourcebook yet, you can now get the PDF at drivethrurpg.com. But whether you have the book or not, stop on by the house occasionally, as I plan to go over more of the new psychic abilities as well as other subjects related to the supernatural. So, subscribe to my channel to keep on haunting the House of BTS and hear what I have to talk about next. And with that, I thank you for stopping by the House of BTS, and go safely and leave something of the happiness you bring.